Okay, so I would be explaining the whole process, key like how do you have to do the extraction. So firstly, you can see we have written the title, author here, and URL over here. Mostly the full text link would be used because we actually have the whole of the text written over here, which would like ease the process of extraction. So firstly, we would have to click on this link. Okay, so this link would open. So this is a paper about eculizumab in AQ4 positive NMOSD. So in here we have randomization, we have double blinded treatment, and okay, random assignment is there. So basically this could be a possible trial which we would be including. So in here we would be seeing the results. In results for baseline, we have got this table over here, right? So in this table we can see there is a comparison between both of the groups, eculizumab and placebo. So they have included types of relapses, right? So these are the total number of people who have got relapses in the form of optic neuritis, transverse myelitis, or brainstem symptoms and everything, right? So इसमें they have median score of EDSS, right, with range. So basically, for the baseline characteristics, what we can do is we can do firstly EDSS score, and then we can enter these values. So I would just show you how it is done. So this is the first study, right? So what I would do is for this study I would add more rows in it, right? I would add more rows in it so that we are able to like enter the data. So basically what I would do is if I have added more rows, then what I would do is I would just copy this extra information and paste it over here so that we do not have any problem after we just apply any filters over this. So this is the first step, and then after that I would just write the trial number if it is present. So basically, is the trial number present or not, I would have to see it. So I would just search NCT. Yeah, trial number is given. Okay, so this most probably is their trial number. So what I would do is I would just copy it and I would paste it over here so that we are able to deduplicate everything pretty easily. So I would just copy and paste it all over the place wherever it is applicable. And then for example, symptoms assist. So basically here we would have to go through the we would have to go through the abstract again. So it is saying at least two-third cases are associated. So so they are talking about reducing the frequency of relapse. So I guess this is their main outcome variable. We can also see in the introduction itself. It would give us a more clear idea. So we conducted a phase 3 randomized double-blind placebo-controlled time to event trial to evaluate efficacy and safety of eculizumab in patients with okay, ठीक है, they haven't given the symptom which they are treating over here. So basically what we would do is you would see endpoints, right? So there would be outcome variables or endpoints given. So the primary efficacy endpoint is time to event trial was the first adjunctive relapse, right? So what they have done is the main outcome variable over here is time to the first relapse after the treatment has been initiated, because you know that NMOSD is a relapsing remitting kind of a disease, that it has some spurts, some bursts of the disease, and after that it is, and then there is baseline, and then it again spurts. So basically in this they are seeing if the first injected relapse is prevented or not. So for that we would have some outcome variables over here. So basically most of the outcome variables would be mentioned in the tables. So this is one of the tables. We would just see what is there. So this is the first table of endpoints. So primary endpoint was first adjunctive relapse. So in eculizumab, like 3% of the people, that is 3 persons were were having a relapse, but 20 people from the placebo group actually were having a relapse, right? So that is a good point. And then what were the secondary endpoints? It was the adjuncted annualized relapse rate. So basically these all would be our outcome variables, and then these are the numbers which we would have to enter. So basically we are set to enter each and every data point over here. So I would start with the data entry. So in here our first symptom would be our first symptoms would be relapse. Like for example in this paper they have secondary endpoint of adjuncted annualized relapse rate, and the first one is first adjuncted relapse rate, right? So basically these two would come under relapse because they are measuring कि relapse हो रहा है कि नहीं, right? So basically I would write relapse, and then first drug I would write is eculizumab, right? I would just write eculizumab. And then is that drug given oral or IV? We would have to see in the paper. Okay, so this is the paper. What they have given is trial design and oversight. Let me just check. Okay, so what I would do is I would just search term oral in this. Oral is not there. Route, dose. Okay, so randomization, we randomly assigned in 2:1 to receive either intravenous. So the route is intravenous or matched placebo. Matched placebo means they have given it through the same intravenous route, but just the dosage is different. Like basically placebo has no dosage, so there won't be a problem of it. So basically I would write here IV, and then here dosage. For dosage what they having, they were having the dosage of at a dosage of 90 milligrams weekly for the first 4 doses starting at day 1, followed by 120 milligram every 2 weeks starting at 4 weeks. So actually this is a mixed type of dosage. So basically at this point what we would have to do is we would have to ensure that we have dosage, we have data for each of these dosages, and most of the times we would only be including the 900 milligram weekly dosage because that is the point where the patient was not getting any medications and was started on a dosage of 900 milligrams weekly, right? So for that we would have to see if there is any data. I guess in the tables there is no data available, but I just saw this graph, and this graph actually explains most of the things. So basically you can see for the first primary endpoint we have this, and it shows the percentage of patients free from relapse, right? So basically we have started the medication for the first 12 weeks, right? So it comes over here, so we would have to extract this data point which is given over here. So basically it has a different approach for extraction of the data that would be explained in another video, but what we can do right now is we can just take some example data to just fill it up, so that because this particular paper is having the data which is given in a very complex format, so most of the studies won't be having this, but let's just see what we can do with the example data set. So for example, for the first time we are seeing the relapse, we are seeing eculizumab IV, and the dosage is for example 900 milligrams, right? I have written this, and it is the frequency is weekly, right? So I would write here weekly. And then what is the outcome variable? So first outcome variable over here was first adjuncted relapse. So over here I would write first adjuncted relapse. Then for baseline I would have to enter the data of sample size, right? So I would just select the baseline table, and in baseline table they have told that 96 patients were receiving eculizumab, right? So I would enter it over here, and then mean summary statistic. So for example over here we are having the outcome variable, as the first adjuncted relapse. So what they have told is, in the first bracket, out of the bracket they have given the number of patients out of these 96 patients who are having their relapse, so basically 3. And then in the bracket they have given percentage. So basically over here there is a measure of central tendency, not rather central tendency, because this is not a continuous data, that is a different point. But over here they have given number of people or percentages. So what we would do over here is we would just enter the summary statistic as number of participants, and over here we would enter 3. And measure of variability is nothing over here, because obviously this is a discrete variable, like yes or no type variable, that is there a relapse or not. So basically such kind of variables won't be having a measure of variability. Otherwise when we are having mean, just as it is shown over here, we would have a standard deviation or we would have a standard error, right? So such case is not present. So basically for numbers or percentages, these two columns would be empty. Okay, so this is baseline data, and after that we would subsequently add the treatment data from here, according to the from this graph. And accordingly we would just fill whole of this sheet for each of the rows. So basically if I have another outcome variable, for example, what was that outcome variable? It was for example score on EDSS, right? So it is a second outcome variable, right? So what I would do is I would write disability, because EDS is actually assesses the disability which the person is currently going through. And then the name of the drug is obviously Kilizumab. It is IV weekly, something like this. And the outcome variable would be EDSS score, right? So over here again the sample size would be 96, and then over here the data would be in the form of mean scores, right? So basically I would enter mean, and then write some and write the value of summary statistic. For example, we have the value is 45, then we would enter 45. And for measure of variability, for example, we have standard deviation, right? So we would enter standard deviation over here, for example 76. So in this way we have entered the baseline data. After this we would enter the time point 1 data. What is time point 1 data? So for example in this article, this is efficacy endpoint, right? That means it is a time point. So wait, so basically what I mean by time point is, for example, we have measured the data at 0, so that would be baseline. Then after that subsequently I would be measuring data at 12 weeks, 24 weeks, 36 weeks, 48 weeks. So these are actually the endpoints, specific endpoints for each of these things, right? So we would have to mention those in the endpoint. So basically again the same thing, that there would be sample size, there would be time point. So basically if we are including data from 12 weeks, then over here we would be writing 12 weeks. And then the summary statistic, for example mean, and so mean, and then we would write the mean value, then we would write the standard deviation and the value of measure of variability. So everything would be included over here. So after that we have entered the data of eculizumab, right? But we would also have to enter the data of the other arm of the study, that is placebo, right? So we would write here placebo. Again IV, there would be no dosage of it, because placebo doesn't have any dosages. and then we would enter the outcome variable. Most probably this would be the outcome variable. Then we would enter the number of people. For example, there would be 45 people. Then number I would be writing, right? And then what is the number of people? I guess I remember it was 20 over there, so 20. And then measure of variability, for this outcome variable would be nothing, because again it is a discrete variable and not a continuous variable. Whereas for EDSS, we would just copy the same thing with disability over here. But over here, if we are assessing EDSS, then it would be having some mean, right? So for example, if the mean over here, uh, if the mean over here is, for example, 80, and standard deviation of this group is 56, then this is the data, and then this is how we would enter the data. Over here we would again write the sample size. So over here I would add the sample size of 45. Then the time point is week 12 weeks, and then I would again enter mean and standard deviation. So this is how we have to enter the data, by adding more rows and filling out this details in the same way, right? And then after you are done, you would just have to include your name in these columns and write done. And the second person who would be there for validation would like actually mention their name in each of the rows after they have validated whole of the data, right? So basically for time point 1 in this article we were having 12 weeks. For time point 2 we can have 48 weeks, or anything which is like relevantly given in the data set, right? And after this we would have to tell if the safety data is reported. So what is safety data? For example, over here we are having another table. It is mentioning the data of adverse events, right? So there are some parameters which we have to only include in this. So basically this sheet has an option of if the safety data is reported or not. So if it is reported, so for example in this disease it is reported, then we have to enter all of the safety data in only the first row of the study. So basically we started the extraction from the row 5, right, for this study. So basically we would have to enter whole of the data over here. So initially I just wrote it in the wrong row. So here I have reported yes, and then after that we would have to only include the data if it is present, like only if this data is included or not. From um, from column bi to bu, we would have to only include these. I would just delete these columns. This is not actually like needed, because we would be only concentrating upon the major um, adverse events. So yeah, over here we would start from this column. So basically we would see what are the adverse events. So any adverse events they have given 128 total number, and in eculizumab, so basically they have given it in different forms: number of events, total events, number of patients, percentages. So basically most of important out of these would be number of patients, right? So out of 98 patients, 88 patients were having some adverse effect, right? So it is 88 number. So basically what we would be entering over here is number of participants who had any event, right? So here we would be including this number. And what was the total number of patients over there? 96 patients were there, right? So this number would be entered over here in the in the bk in the bk5 cell, right? So this is what we would be entering in this data. So yeah, in the same way we would have to enter these all data points, and then we would be good to go, right? So please tell me if you have any doubts. If you don't have any doubts, please like start the extraction as soon as possible. As of now there are just only 22 studies, so we would be able to complete it fast enough, because we have around 15 people, right? So thank you so much.